Scary telling.
I am a wealthy man by day, but by night I am a hunter. I prowl the dark alleys of London, seeking out the kind of pleasure that money can't buy. I have a taste for the macabre, and I enjoy the feeling of power that comes with taking the lives of those I deem unworthy. It was a cold, dark night when I first saw her. She was lost and scared, wandering the twisting pathways of the city with fear in her eyes. I could tell she was an easy target, and I knew I had to have her. I followed her, my heart racing with excitement. The thrill of the hunt was what kept me going, and I relished the feeling of power that came with it. She led me down a dark corner, and I stepped out from the shadows. "Hello, my dear," I said, with a charming smile. "Are you lost?" She turned around and gasped when she saw me. I could see the fear in her eyes, and I knew I had her right where I wanted her. "I am looking for my way back to my hotel," she stammered. "I can help you with that," I said, stepping closer. "But first, I have a proposition for you." She looked at me with a mix of curiosity and fear, and I knew I had her hooked. "I want to show you something," I said, gesturing down a dark alleyway. "Something you've never seen before." She hesitated for a moment, but then she nodded, and I knew I had her right where I wanted her. I led her down the alleyway, my heart pounding with excitement. As we walked, I could feel her fear growing. She knew she was in danger, but she couldn't help herself. The thrill of the unknown was too strong, and she followed me deeper into the alleyway. I turned around and faced her, my eyes locked onto hers. She tried to back away, but I was too quick for her. I grabbed her by the arm and pulled her close. "You're going to be mine," I whispered in her ear. "And I'm going to make sure you never forget this night." I could see the fear in her eyes, and I knew she was mine. I pulled out my scalpel and began to cut into her flesh, relishing the feeling of power that came with it. The thrill of the hunt was what kept me going, and I knew that this was just the beginning. There would be more, so many more. I was the hunter, and no one could stop me. As I cut deeper into her flesh, I knew that I was in control. The feeling of power was intoxicating, and I never wanted it to end. As I cut deeper into the young woman's flesh, I could sense that something was different about this night. It was as if the air itself had become thick and heavy, and a strange presence filled the alleyway. I looked up, and to my horror, I saw a ghostly figure standing before me. The figure was dressed in rags and chains, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. It seemed to be warning me to leave the alleyway, to leave this place and never return. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, a trick of the light or my own fear manifesting itself. But as I looked closer, I could see that the figure was real, and it was not happy with my presence. I tried to back away, to run from the ghostly figure, but I was caught in the grip of some unknown force. I couldn't move, and I couldn't speak. All I could do was watch as the figure approached me, its ghostly form growing closer and closer. It spoke to me in a cold, sinister voice, warning me to leave this place and never return. But I was too stubborn, too consumed by my own power and desire to listen. Instead, I pulled out my scalpel and brandished it at the ghostly figure. I knew it was foolish, but I couldn't help myself. I felt invincible, like nothing could touch me. The ghostly figure didn't flinch, didn't even seem to notice the scalpel in my hand. Instead, it just kept coming closer and closer, its ghostly presence filling the alleyway. And then, in a flash of light, it was gone. The alleyway was silent once again, and I was left standing there, alone and afraid. But even in my fear, I knew that I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let some ghostly figure scare me away from my own pleasure. So, I decided to stay, to continue my hunt, to show the world that I was the one in control. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That the ghostly figure was still there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for me to make a mistake. And as the night wore on, I realized that I had made a terrible mistake. That I had unleashed something far more powerful than myself, something that I couldn't control. I knew then that I had to leave, to get as far away from this place as possible. But even as I walked away, I could feel the ghostly presence following me, watching me, waiting for me to slip up. I didn't know it then, but my life would never be the same again. The ghostly figure had marked me, cursed me, and I was powerless to stop it. I was the hunter, but now I was also the hunted. As I walked away from the alleyway, I could feel a strange transformation taking place within me. It was as if something had taken hold of me, something dark and powerful that I couldn't resist. At first, I tried to ignore it, to push it down and forget about it. But as the days went on, the feeling only grew stronger until I could no longer deny it. I had been cursed, marked by the ghostly figure in the alleyway, and there was no escaping it. But then, one night, as I lay in my bed, I heard a voice calling out to me. It was the same voice that had spoken to me in the alleyway, the same cold, sinister voice that had warned me to leave. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then I realized that the voice was real. It was coming from somewhere within my own mind, a manifestation of the curse that had taken hold of me. The voice spoke to me, offering me a way out, a way to break the curse and free myself from its grip. But there was a price to pay, a heavy price that I wasn't sure I was willing to pay. The voice told me that I could break the curse by taking it upon myself, by becoming the new guardian of the alleyway, the new keeper of the curse. But in doing so, I would be forever bound to the place, never able to leave, never able to escape. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to be tied to one place, to be a prisoner in my own body. But then, as the days went on, I realized that I had no choice. The curse was consuming me, and I needed to break free from its grip. So, I made a deal with the voice. I would become the new keeper of the curse, take it upon myself, and break its hold on the alleyway. In exchange, I would be free, able to leave and go wherever I pleased. The voice agreed, and I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. I had made a deal with the devil, but it was a deal that I knew I had to make. And so, I returned to the alleyway, to the place where it all began. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me as I stepped into the darkness, knowing that this was where I was meant to be. The ghostly figure appeared before me once again, and I knew that it was time to make my move. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let the curse wash over me. At first, it was painful, a searing pain that felt like fire coursing through my veins. But then, as the pain subsided, I felt a sense of power that I had never known before. I was the new keeper of the curse, bound to the alleyway for eternity. But in that moment, I didn't care. All that mattered was the feeling of power that came with it, the feeling of being in control once again. As the ghostly figure disappeared, I knew that I was free. Free to leave, free to go wherever I pleased. But deep down, I knew that I would never truly be free. The curse would always be a part of me, a part of who I was. And so, I left the alleyway, a changed man, forever bound to the curse that had taken hold of me. For a time, I thought I had beaten the curse. I was free to come and go as I pleased, and the power that came with being the keeper of the alleyway was intoxicating. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, I began to feel the effects of the curse once again. It was like a cancer growing inside of me, consuming me from within. I tried to ignore it, to push it down and forget about it, but it was always there, lurking in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of what I had done. And then, one night, I received a visitor. It was a woman dressed in a dark cloak with eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. At first, I thought it was just another one of my conquests, another victim to add to my collection. But then I saw the fear in her eyes, the same fear that I had felt so many times before. She told me that she had been cursed, that she had seen the ghostly figure in the alleyway, and that she was afraid for her life. At first, I didn't know what to do. I was the keeper of the alleyway, the one who was supposed to protect it, not the one who was supposed to be feared. But then, as I looked at the woman, I realized that I was no different from her. I was cursed, just like she was, and I knew that I couldn't keep running from it forever. And so, I made a decision. I would break the curse, once and for all. I would find a way to rid myself of the power that had consumed me, and I would do it for the sake of myself, and for the sake of all those who had been affected by the curse. I began to research, poring over old books and manuscripts, trying to find a way to break the curse. It wasn't easy, and many times I thought that I would never find a solution. But then, one day, I came across a book that held the answer. It was an old, tattered book, with pages that crumbled at my touch. But as I read through it, I realized that it held the key to breaking the curse. The book told of a ritual, a way to cleanse oneself of the curse and rid oneself of its power. It was dangerous, and there was no guarantee that it would work. But I knew that I had to try. And so, I prepared for the ritual, gathering the necessary ingredients and preparing myself for what was to come. I knew that it was risky, but I had no other choice. As I began the ritual, I could feel the power of the curse surging through me like a storm gathering strength. But then, as the ritual reached its climax, something strange happened. The power of the curse began to dissipate, to fade away into nothingness. And as the ritual ended, I realized that I was free. Free from the curse that had consumed me for so long. I looked around, and I could see that the alleyway was different now. It was no longer a place of darkness and fear, but a place of light and hope. And as I left the alleyway, for what would be the final time, I knew that I had accomplished something truly great. I had broken the curse, and in doing so, I had freed myself and all those who had been affected by it. But even as I walked away, I knew that the memory of the curse would always be with me. A reminder of the darkness that had consumed me and the power that had nearly destroyed me. In the aftermath of breaking the curse, I found myself adrift. For so long, my life had revolved around the alleyway and the curse that had consumed me. But now, with the curse broken, I was lost, unsure of what to do next. At first, I tried to go back to my old life, to forget about the curse and move on. But I soon realized that it wasn't that simple. The curse had left its mark on me, and I couldn't just forget about it and move on. And so, I decided to use my experience to help others. I became a counselor, helping those who had been affected by the curse and guiding them on the path to healing. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I felt like giving up. But then, I would remember the fear and pain that I had felt, and I knew that I couldn't abandon those who needed me. As time went on, I began to see the positive impact that I was having. People were coming to me for help, and I was able to guide them towards a better future. And then, one day, I received a visitor. It was a young woman with eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. At first, I thought it was another victim of the curse, but then I saw the smile on her face. She told me that she had been affected by the curse, but that she had broken free of its grip. And she credited her freedom to me, to the guidance and support that I had given her. In that moment, I realized that my life had a purpose. I was here to help others, to guide them on the path to healing and freedom. And even though the memory of the curse would always be with me, I knew that I had found a new calling, a new purpose in life. And so, I continued on my path, helping those who had been affected by the curse. And even though it wasn't always easy, I knew that it was worth it. Because in the end, I had broken free of the curse, and in doing so, I had found a new life, a new purpose, and a new sense of hope.